I love that strategy too for people who maybe want to own some land alone. You subdivide it off, make a little money, and keep a parcel to yourself.
You know what's funny? All these other comps, that house on 5 acres is really selling for the same price as they have it listed for here. They don't see the value in the land after about 5 acres, it seems like.
You're going to sell 4 acres, get majority of your money back, and then if you needed to down the road, you're going to keep these other parcels because you want to Airbnb them, but the equity is all there.
This doesn't feel real because it feels like it's too good of a deal. Like when you find something like this and you're like, time out, does this actually work? Because if this actually works, I'd be insane not to do it.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I got Darrick B with me, co-host here, talking about MLS hacks. And Darrick just had an incredible, and you guys are going to be shocked when you hear this, incredible MLS hack. I'm talking about, I'm not going to spill it actually, so wait till you hear about this. But Darrick, welcome back. What got you into, I know you just got your own MLS hack, but you're the one who came up, you're like, let's talk about MLS hacks. Do you see opportunity in it for everyone?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's nice because it literally requires no marketing, right? Like if you have $0, like an MLS hack would maybe be a way that you can get into land flipping relatively easily if you have some time to find the deals on the MLS.
And the other nice thing about that, so you need $0 marketing, but any property listed on the MLS, what do they want? They want to sell their property. So you're going to, they're all qualified, right?
Yeah.
But let's define MLS hack for those who don't know what it is. I barely know what it even is. What is it, Darrick?
Yeah. So an MLS hack is something that's listed currently on the MLS. So you can find this through, either like a Zillow or a Redfin, or even like if you know what the MLS is in your area, they obviously have a search function there as well. You can find them on land.com, any major website where something is listed for sale. And the real basic of it is that you find a piece of land listed for the MLS and you run the numbers to see if a subdivide would work at a higher acreage. So you're generally dealing with you're searching for land usually in a certain acreage range at a certain price, right? So if you know what the per acre price should be for that acreage range. So let's take a 50-acre parcel, for instance, that you can go look, you can use the land portal, you can find out, all right, on average 50-acre parcels are selling for $5,000 an acre. So you would then search the MLS for a 50-acre parcel or a range, somewhere between 40 and 60 acres in that price range. Because there's going to be people who list their stuff on the MLS for, way over asking or whatever it is. But you can specifically narrow your search and go, what here is listed at market value that would be, possible to do a subdivide. And then really what you want to do is look at like the 5 to 10 acre price as well. And you want to see that 5 to 10 acre parcels are selling for, let's say, $15,000 an acre, right? So if you can see that difference and you go, okay, here's a parcel for 50 acres that's selling for $5,000 an acre. So $250,000 purchase price. So you're looking for around a 50-acre parcel that's listed on the MLS for $250,000. If you find that, you can then go pull it up in the land portal. A lot of times they'll either have an address or an APN, parcel ID, I think is what it says in the Zillow search. And you can go look it up on the land portal. Use the land portal and see how much road frontage it has, find out the buildability, do your research on that parcel, find out if it is subdividable. Call the county. A lot of times you maybe start with a county and find, a county where minor subdivides are really simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you find one that qualifies, you're basically buying that property, splitting it up into some 10-acre parcels, maybe toss in a couple 5-acre parcels if the road frontage allows that, and basically buying it, on market for market value and reselling it at $15,000 per acre after the subdivide.
Yeah, well said. I love that strategy too for people who maybe want to own, like we're going to get into your story, but people who maybe want to own some land alone. You subdivide it off, make a little money, and keep a parcel to yourself.
100%.
The opportunities are endless with this strategy. It's so nice to work with MLS properties because you don't need, like Darrick said, you don't need your marketing, and these people are already motivated. Here's one thing that I do when I'm doing this, because right now I'm looking for an MLS hack for a big subdivide play, maybe keep some land for myself in Northern Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go similar to what you do. I go on land portal. I'll put in for sale. You can put in over a certain amount a day. I don't do that though because I don't care. I just want to see the price it's at. So I put in for sale, and I'll put in within a price per acre of 3,000 to 7,000, depending on where I am, like knowing the market value, right?
Mhm.
So I know it's not going to be too high, and I know it's not going to be too low. But you can filter by it's on the MLS inland portal. It's within the price per acre I'm looking at. I put in the acreage I'm looking at 50 plus, and then I put in the road frontage 1,500 plus. And I'll put in, I usually leave wetlands and FEMA blank just I don't want to over filter. But then I have road frontage. I have it's on the MLS. I have it's within my price. And then you pull it up and I see all these properties. And then I got a list of 47 properties in 3 counties that fit my criteria. Now, some are going to be ugly looking, something, you know what I mean? Maybe they're off the road and there's just an easement going down, whatever. But you go through them, you make 10 offers at 80, 90% of market value on those, you're probably going to get 8 deals. Like you know what I mean?
100%.
Like buying a land for 80% of what it's listed for is very realistic. 90%, whatever it is. But the main thing is, like Darrick mentioned briefly at the end, you want to start with the counties to make sure you can do what you want to do because you don't want to go through this whole process, put an offer, then go and be like, oh, I can't even subdivide this property,
Right.
you know? So
Right.
start there and then work there. But yeah, just find out like Darrick said, going back to this the 50 acre price per acre versus the 5 to 10 acres, you need a big difference there. The bigger the difference, the better. Because
Mhm.
you will need to know when you're improving it and you're splitting it up into multiple lots, you want to make sure you're getting more money price per acre out of it. It's just like Ron and I always say the Costco analogy, buying 1,000 hot dogs at Costco for 50 cents a hot dog or going to the ball game and paying $3, right? You want to make sure you're getting more per hot dog, more per acre in this analogy.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's talk about your deal. I think that was a good understanding of the MLS hack, what it is, how to
Mhm.
target them, right?
Yep.
Let's go. Let's talk about your deal.
Yeah, so this all kind of started. I actually had a couple offers that I just send out blind offer type stuff where people would call me and say, "Hey, you can't buy this land, but I am selling my house. My house is listed and it's on 50 acres in so and so county or whatever." And I always struggled with it because I'm a land guy. I'm not a house guy, right?
Yep.
I have a hard time like comping homes and stuff like that. But I was like, some of them seem like good deals. And I talked to a couple of my realtor buddies, and it was in Tennessee, and I used to be a realtor. Some of my best friends here are realtors, so I, would have conversations like, "Hey, like, is there ever an option here where I can like split this house off, and you guys can just handle the house portion, and I can handle the land portion of this?"
Mhm.
And of course, we start going down this road of chatting with them, and I bring up a certain deal where it was a $500,000 house on like 30 acres in like rural Tennessee, just west of Nashville. And the you know the 1 to 10 acre price was really high, and they had this. It was a nice house. It was recently remodeled, but it was a little bit rural, so obviously the price was really well suited. It had a little pond on the property,
Mhm.
and I showed this to my realtor friend. He goes, it's funny. He goes, if you look at all these other comps, so he did like a CMA on that home for me. He goes, all these other comps, like that house on 5 acres is really selling for the same price as they have it listed for here. Like a lot of the value is built into the home here plus 5 acres.
Mhm.
But as you add more acreage, they're not adding more value. Like they don't see the value in the land after about 5 acres, it seems like. So we kind of did that, and I was like, that's really interesting. I was like, so really I could subdivide this off in 5 acres, resell it for what I bought it for, and then make all the money on the land and sell off the land basically for profit. And they're like, yeah, that's basically what we're saying. So I was like, well, let me dive into this. So I started like diving into this process, and I would find them all over the place. Like in 20 minutes, I can find two or three that I'm like, oh, this looks like this might work, where most of the value they've built in is in the house. And these are like, a lot of them were like $800,000 properties, 900,000, like they're really expensive because they're on big land. But it's also a big home, but that big home on 5 acres retains, you know, 95 to 100% of the value a
Wow.
lot of times. Um, and so it was a really interesting like thing for me. And so I was like, I wonder if this would work as like a hack, like an MLS hack, where I could teach something like this to my clients and they can use this. And it's going to require getting a realtor involved. But I was like, there's so many benefits to this. So when you do something like this, because there's a home on it, you can mortgage it, right? Where it's a little bit, you don't necessarily have to come in with all cash.
Right.
If you have an investor who has cash and can qualify for a loan, they can come in and then only invest 20% of that value or 30% of the value of this property. And so their cash out is much less than a lot of times doing like a land deal. So the investor can come in and put the 30% down for you, like you're going to partner with an investor. You're going to subdivide off all the land. The strategy would be, basically use the land to pay off the mortgage. So subdivide, maybe make some money there, and then resell the house that's on 5 acres at 95%, maybe 100% of what you bought it for, because you've preserved, the value there with the 5 acres.
Wow.
Yeah. So I came up with this idea, and I started showing it to a couple clients who were wanting to work subdivide stuff, and I was like, this is just another option to add on to your subdivide
Mm-hmm.
portfolio, basically. And I was showing, I usually show this in the same county that I live in because I know the numbers here. My wife and I would love to own land in this area, so I've been looking for 5 years for some affordable land. It's hard to buy. I'm one county removed from Nashville, so it's very expensive. But I usually show it in my area, and I was showing a client. I was like, all right, let's just start fresh. I pulled up the county in Land Portal, and I pulled up listings, and I kind of had like a price range in mind, like under $1 million with a home on more than 10 acres. And so, and I know that 1 acre in my area sells for around $150,000, which is a lot. And I get it, like we live in a very expensive county, but I know that if it has 10 acres or more and it's listed for under $1 million, the land alone is worth more than what they have it listed for. So right away I'm like, and there was like 5 or 6 properties that popped up. And so I found this property. It's like 20 minutes away from me. That had a main house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and then two 2-bedroom, 1-baths on the property. And I was just showing it to a client as far as a MLS hack. It was on 12 acres. There was lots of land that you can subdivide off around because all the homes are kind of in one corner. And so I was like, there's all this land that you can subdivide off. Each one of these little 1 acre parcels is going to be worth about $150,000 each. You can split off. It looks like, you could really split off 4 acres here. And I think at the time, that listing, they wanted $775,000 for everything. And so I was like, this really seems like it would work. So I was showing it to him, and I was breaking it off, and I was like, there's also one of the 2-bedroom, 1-bath that's a little set off to the side that you could also subdivide off that 2-bedroom, 1-bath and sell that for $300,000 to $400,000 in my area. So I was like, this really just feels like this doesn't feel real because it feels like it's too good of a deal. Like when you find something like this and you're like, time out, like, does this actually work? Because if this actually works, I'd be insane not to do it. And so right away I call the county, I chat with them, and we kind of go down this road of like, is this possible? And I bring it to my wife because I couldn't get it out of my head. It took me like 5 days, and I was like, I can't stop thinking about this property. So I bring it to my wife, and I'm like, hey, this looks like this would work for us. I was like, because of what I do, and subdividing land is something that I'm very familiar with. I was like, this wouldn't be a bad deal for us. And basically, we could put an offer in with the equity we have in my house here. We can put an offer in on that property, and I could subdivide the land. And basically, after we subdivide the land, we can pay off the complete mortgage on this property and still have like 8 acres to live on
With
without
a
a
house.
mortgage, and have a house with 2 separate, basically we're gonna Airbnb one of them. One of them will be for visiting family. But I was like, that will be the strategy. And I was like, what do you think? And so she's like, let's go take a look at it. So that weekend we went out and we took a look at it, and the house needs some work. And like we were expecting that for that price. But nothing that we weren't, ready to deal with. So it worked. So here
Wow.
we are. Literally, my house is listed. We've had showings all week, which is funny. I've been out in cafes. So if any of my coaching clients are watching this, we've done all my meetings this week in cafes because my house is on the market currently because I'm living this MLS hack. I was out all weekend with soil testers, finding septic sites for these other parcels that I'm breaking off, and we found 2 more septic sites, which is great. And basically, we're doing this deal, but we're going to go live in this house mortgage free. And it's kind of a way where you can, like, if you ever wanted to get into a rental property, right? Let's say for part of your portfolio for being a real estate investor is, getting some rentals. You could do this and basically pay down the mortgage or completely pay off the mortgage of a home by selling off the land and have a rental basically for free,
Literally.
um, which is insane. So I'm
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
this feels like, and if you're working with an investor, like the numbers are all there, and the investor's only going to be cash out for the mortgage, rather than having to come in and pay. My case, $775,000 down. They can come in with 200,000 basically,
Hmm.
and get this deal under contract and then basically it's a mortgage, so there's going to be some carrying costs that you got to figure out. But other than that, it's a pretty cheap way to get a free house or a really low, mortgage on a home. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, and it
So
seems to work.
Real quick, guys, before we get back to the episode, if you're looking to get into land flipping, get your first land deal. We have helped so many people with our one-on-one coaching. If you guys want to schedule a call, learn more, hit the link below, landinvestingonline.com/consultations, schedule a call, and we'll help you out.
yeah, no, this is getting me really excited. I love it. So you identified an opportunity just to go over that. You saw a property with a house, whether it was on 5 acres or 40 acres, it was you were seeing the same price. The price was in the house, not the land, right? So that's the
Correct.
opportunity. That's how you identified it. You're like, why is this house, same size house on 5 acres listed for the same price as the same size house on 20, 30 acres, right?
Correct.
So you identified it, saw an opportunity, started showing people, saw a house you liked by showing a client, right? Like saw an
It was a
opportunity you
coaching
liked.
client. I was teaching them this whole process
Um,
live.
so what was the total acreage again on your property?
So it's a 12-acre parcel.
12 acres. And you're
Yep.
keeping how many of it?
We're going to keep 8.
You're keeping 8. And you're keeping the 3 houses?
We are going to initially keep the 3 houses. We're going to see if we can make an Airbnb work. We don't know if we want to get into that job or not, but we're initially going to keep it. But I'm also going to while I'm subdividing everything else, I am going to subdivide off the 2-bedroom, 1-bath just to have
Just to have it while
in
you're doing
case.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And then you can
Exactly.
always, yeah. You could even literally get them like with separate mortgage out on those and then do the same thing in MLS Hack again.
Totally.
Because you're going to be having 100% equity. Your mortgage is going to be paid off. You can leverage some debt on the equity and do it again. Literally.
Yeah.
This is
And
a really cool strategy.
I
And
should say we also negotiated this deal down from 775 to 650. So that's what we're actually buying this thing. So it got even better.
Okay, so purchase price 650.
Yeah.
Got it. And so you're subdividing you're going to sell 4 acres. And how many lots are that going to be?
We're going to do 2 2-acre lots.
And you think they're going to sell for how much each?
Well, we're probably going to put them on the market for 200,000. They probably are worth a little bit more, but looking to move them quick.
Got it. Okay. So you're going to sell that, get majority of your money back. And then if you needed to down the road, you're going to keep these other parcels because you want to Airbnb them. You want one house for a family, but the equity is all there. That's really, really cool. So someone's starting out and they're like, they love this conversation we're having. They're excited about it. Do you think they should do it in their market with something like this, or what do you suggest just in general for someone starting out?
No, because I find them all over the place. So when I was showing this initially to my very first client, we were doing it in Decatur County, Tennessee, which is like pretty rural between Memphis and Nashville. It's like that one county that's like really right between. And there's no subdivision regulations there, which is wild. They don't even have a zoning board or anything. Like you can basically, I know I'm giving it up. Everyone's going to be starting mailing Decatur County for subdivides, but basically you could do anything. It's the Wild West in Decatur County because they don't even have any regulations. So it defaults to the state regulation. Basically, you can break off as many parcels as you want as long as they're over an acre. You don't even need to get them septic approved as you subdivide them. If they're under an acre, you just need to get them septic approved. But that's really it. And we found a property over there when I was showing it to a client, and I was like, it works. And he called a realtor and he made an offer. Ended up not getting the offer. They actually had a couple more offers come in for that parcel. So he didn't actually end up getting that offer, but it totally 100% would have worked. It was like a 50-acre parcel and he had it all road frontage on 2 sides. It was like a beautiful, he was going to break them all off into 5-acre parcels. So he had like the house on 5 acres plus a little like stream and then a bunch of other small 5-acre parcels that came in off the road frontage. And it was just perfect. So,
and one county, I know that's a rural situation. Don't do this in a like urban, like Cincinnati's in Hamilton County. What county is Nashville in?
Davidson County.
Davidson, don't do this in Davidson, or would it work in Davidson?
Good question. Probably not.
Yeah,
Mostly because there's just not that many big parcels in those super, urban counties.
exactly. They're already
Um,
developed.
they're already developed. Yeah, absolutely. And most people know, the land values are so expensive already. Like, even if you found this deal in something like that, the because it's so rare to have that land in that kind of area,
Mm,
it's going to already be very expensive.
got it. So,
But I
same
do
strategy, 1 to 2 counties removed.
Totally. I do think it works really well in one county removed. We don't have a lot of strategies for that area because it's generally really tough to do like our rural investing because there's a lot of suburban stuff going on.
Yeah.
But sometimes in these counties that are one county removed, you have a lot of suburban area right by the major city. So in my county, Wilson County, there's a lot of suburban stuff right on the edge, right after you get from Davison to Wilson. So I'm not really looking in that area. I'm trying to stay out of the suburbs. I'm still trying to stay out of city regulations. But eventually you get outside of those city limits. You're like in an unincorporated area where there's less regulation and where subdivision stuff really works still. So that's I think a market that I think where this works really well because homes are just expensive enough because they're so close to a major metropolitan area, but not so expensive that they're like urban and not so cheap that you're not going to get the value out of the land really. So it's I think it really is a sweet spot in those one county removed.
I love the 1 county removes from appreciation standpoint too. I mean, you're talking these
Totally.
cities bleed, right? They keep expanding out. I still think in the next 10 years, there's been a rush to get outside the cities, but I think that's going to continue in the next 10 years of people just continuing to move out of urban centers into more rural, more areas. And where do they go? They go to the closest place to get that from their city, which is 1 county removed, right?
Correct.
I From a appreciation standpoint, especially since you're holding those properties, you're going to be in a very pretty spot when you look back in 15 years on this.
Totally. And especially if you're looking for stuff like rental properties, right? Or even Airbnb properties, being close to that metropolitan hub, like me being close to Nashville, I know that people come here, the airport is right on the county line between us. And so they can drive 10 minutes into my county, rent an Airbnb for, $300 less than they would in Nashville and just take an Uber in. It's not much further. So it really, there's or even like long-term rentals, right? If I wanted to, in all reality, like we could long-term rental some of these 2 bedroom, 1 baths on our property and get, 2 or 3 thousand, probably about $2,000 a month for rental on those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just income, which
Cash
is
flow.
crazy. And if you did it with just a single house, the same thing, right? You can rent out that single house. It's close enough to a metropolitan where you're going to have a massive amount of demand for rentals in these areas.
Wow. So you could also just split off the houses and keep the land and do whatever with the land. Like it just it's very that's why I love this strategy is because it's so flexible. The
Totally.
opportunities.
Yeah.
What haven't we covered so far? Because you're the one who's lived this. You're the living proof that this actually works.
Yeah.
What haven't we covered so far? We need to get to.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to definitely check into the subdivision regulations in the area before you start getting too far down the road. Like you can find the deal, but like really that's kind of cart before the horse type stuff. I get it. You're going to get excited. Everyone's going to rush to Land Portal and start pulling up the listings. But look, you got to find counties that still have good subdivision regulations, right? So like I said, you're still probably staying outside of city limit type stuff because those are always going to come with subdivision regulations that are going to be really challenging to deal with. But as soon as you get outside those areas, you want to call those counties and be like, all right, I'm looking at something, outside city limits. What are my subdivision regulations there? And that's super important to know before you start even looking in a county or even
Mhm.
spending any time doing that, because you can just be spinning your wheels the whole time and realize, oh, I can't. The subdivision regulations here are they have to be over 5 acres, right? So in that case, it's not going to work. Like I found that out. I thought I can split off 1 acre parcels just looking online. And then when I called the county, they're like, no, those changed last year. It's 2 acre parcels now, which is why we're doing two acre
Oh,
parcels.
they just changed it.
Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
it's 2 2 acre parcels instead of 4 1 acre parcels.
Hmm.
So we're going to do 2 2 acres to stay in the minor sub. I could still do the 1 acre parcels. It's just I'd have to jump through more hoops and I'm just not really wanting to do that because it's fine the way it is. Like if I'm going to make 400,000 and pay off basically the entire mortgage that we'll have, that will be fine.
Yeah, and some things the counties would tell you Like Darrick said, minimal lot size, right? That's the number one thing to look at. 5 acres is common, 2 acres is common, 1 acre. You want to see what's the smallest size you can split it into, what's staying a minor subdivision and not going down the major route.
Hmm.
Road frontage. Some of them will say you need 100 feet of road frontage, 200 feet, 50 feet of road frontage. And that really matters when you do like flag shapes and things like that, right? And you got to get really creative. So you want to look at the road frontage you need, how many parcels you can split. Some minor subdivisions only let you split into 5 parcels max or 3 parcels max. That's another common one that you'll see.
Hmm.
And then some counties are like, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
And those are the counties you really want at the end of the day.
Totally.
But I don't
It's
have
kind of
anything else that, yeah, go on.
it's the Wild West in those counties, right?
It
Like, have
literally
at
is.
it. Like,
I'm like, what do you mean I can do anything? Can I just
yeah.
build a skyscraper
Can you
here?
explain
Like,
that a little bit deeper? Like, what do you mean by anything?
yeah,
It's wild.
literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's other than that, like also you do have to have a little bit of knowledge of the actual like home real estate, right? Like what are things selling for in the area? So you also want to kind of click into on the land portal, structures, right? Not just vacant land. You want to look at structures and you
Hmm.
want to get an idea of what things are selling for on that 5 acre range. So you want to have an idea of running comps on homes, whatever they are, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, in that like bread and butter home range. You don't want to get so expensive that that the land is never going to be able to catch up if you subdivide it, right? There's a ton of properties here in my county that are $2 million, right? It doesn't matter that they're on 30 acres. I'm never going to sell enough land off that 30 acres to make up that 2 million. So you have to have an idea of also the difference between the real estate value in the home with and the land value as well, which is why, like I said, the sweet spot is one county removed because the land can be expensive enough to pay off
Right.
a house.
It's true. And I talked to a guy who builds 500 homes the other day, a year, and I was just asking him about his the average price of land he's buying essentially and how he calculates. He doesn't look at the market value ever. He just makes sure there's enough margin when he builds a house that he's going to sell and make money. He doesn't
Right.
care the price of the land. Like if he can pay you $1 million, he just doesn't care. That's not what he looks at. It's not in his equation. But he said it averages out his land acquisition to 14% of the home cost.
Hmm.
And that was last year, I think he said, or maybe that's the year to date. He said 2025. So 14% of the total cost that he's selling is actually in the land. So market value, 14%. That's what he's acquiring land for. That being said, he's doing more major subdivide type of stuff. So the land's smaller. So that price probably goes up the
Sure.
higher acreage you get. But really good conversation here, guys. If you're not MLS hacking or you haven't looked into it, you want a free house, you want some free land, that's where to start, Darrick.
Totally, 100%. Like it's such a wild thing to think about. Like, you mean I can get a free home? It's that or some free land? Like this is crazy. It's a crazy MLS hack and it works really well and you can do it while you're, you can do it on the land portal app. Awesome. Like you can just be sitting there and be like, I got 20 minutes, you probably find one, just so you know. It's wild.
Wow. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, Darrick. If you guys haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube. Hit that like button, comment if you guys have any questions or comments on this. Other than that, guys, thanks for joining us.
Bye.